We're joined today by Daryush, who's our Chief AI Officer. Daryush, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and some of the things you've been doing?
Absolutely. So I'm Daryush. I run the AI team for Ascendion company and the group of companies there. Ultimately, my role is to make sure that at Ascendion and within our family, we have the right strategy for AI. We are investing in the right areas. We are actually kind of helping our clients with the correct AI technology and strategy kind of going forward. So that's what I do day in and day out. My background is quite a bit around the AI, data, and also public cloud. So I have worked on building some of the public cloud products in Azure, in Google Cloud. I actually helped build JP Morgan's cloud-based machine learning platform, and also had a quick stint helping NVIDIA build the self-driving car stack, which was a lot of fun. But super thrilled to be at Ascendion and helping our clients realize the value of AI in their day-to-day work.
Thank you, Daryush. How do you bringing domain expertise into something like AI?
I actually think that bringing domain expertise and technology together is ultimately the secret sauce to making AI projects successful in any enterprise. This is one of the areas that I'm super excited for Digitaire to be part of the Ascendion family, because Digitaire has such a deep knowledge and deep expertise into the financial services and the trading world. And with Ascendion family bringing in the technology knowledge and Digitaire bringing in the domain knowledge, I think together we can make magic for the financial services industry. So I'm really, really looking forward to how much awesomeness we can actually bring our clients here.
Oh, that sounds very good to me. And we're seeing this kind of broader shift now towards agentic AI. What does that mean exactly? So what is agentic AI? What are agents? And what does that mean for specifically the software engineering industry?
You're asking me difficult questions now. I think, by the way, we have been at this for about 15 minutes now. So I think by now at least 2 additional agentic frameworks have actually been released in the world. But overall, I think the industry is still converging on what the true actual definition and the scope of an agent and agentic workflows are. But ultimately, I think our mental model should be something like this. At the high level, we have AI that can sense the environment that is being executed on and can reason about the tasks that it actually needs to go complete to achieve a complex objective. So the key things in this definitions are, number 1, independent and autonomous. Number 2, sensing the environment that it is executing on. Number 3, autonomously making decisions and reasoning about that environment. And then number 4, achieving complex objectives. I think if you bring all of this together with the power of AI, we have a good, nice, high-level autonomous agent. This is a place that I actually see the market is moving towards. If you look at products like Windsurf in the market, they actually have an agent called Cascade. It actually does very awesome, complex software engineering tasks, and it focuses on the inner loop of the software engineering. We have our own platform called AAVA Plus that focuses more on the outer loop of software engineering. I think with all of these agentic approaches, we can ultimately change the way that enterprises really build software. Today, you're building software by having requirements, then give it to a bunch of developers to go code it, and then to a bunch of testers to go test it and all of those things. And that's great, that works. But what if you could actually bring AI into this world that can take care of all of those minute and grunt work, but I tend to call it the janitorial work of software development for you, so that the engineers can actually focus on the high level architecture, problem decomposition, and all of those things. So I think the software engineering as we know it today will be completely revolutionized and will be completely different a few years down the road. You won't recognize that software development today, 5 years down the road.
That's really interesting, because you're talking about both the inner loop and the outer loop of the software development lifecycle, and developers now going up the value chain and providing more in terms of business value to the organizations. So the inner loop is kind of things like GitHub Copilot, right, like Cursor. But when it comes to the outer loop, then you mentioned AAVA Plus. What is AAVA Plus? and what advantages does it have over the inner loop tools?
My favorite example. Let's say we start with an idea. Wouldn't it be great if we could build a red screen with a blue button on it, right? It's an idea, right? Now, every engineer will tell you that I cannot execute on that. You know, what is the size of the screen? What is the shape of the button? And all of that stuff. So you always start with an idea, but you need to produce a good, rock-solid, well-thought-out roadmap. Going from an idea to a roadmap is what product managers do today. And they go through a very disciplined approach in terms of understanding the problem, thinking about the product, positioning it, how do you actually turn it into capabilities roadmap, all of those things. Well, AAVA Plus can actually help all the product managers go from idea to the roadmap that is executable for engineers very, very quickly at almost light speed. Now, once you actually have the roadmap, let's say somewhere in Jira, then AAVA Plus can help you knock out the code skeleton, the high-level part of the code that actually takes engineers 30 to 40% of the time of the sprint. AI can actually take care of that for you. Now, the engineers might come up, human in the loop, right? Engineers, they actually come in and they say, okay, did the AI do the work correctly? Do I need to tweak it here? Do I need to tweak it there? And that is a place that, products like GitHub Copilot or Windsurf or Cursor AI do an amazing job there. AAVA Plus can also help in that area, but AAVA Plus does a lot more than what Cursor AI and everything else does. Now, going back to the world of the developer. Now, the developer actually now has the skeleton code. You can actually build on top of it. There is also the QE person, the quality engineer, which in software engineering, we always forget about QE engineers. They are always at the end, so sorry guys. But anyway, so now the quality engineers can get those user stories, can get those requirements, and with the help of AI, can agentify and actually build and deploy that integration test environment, the test environment that tests for non-functional requirements, NFR, a lot quicker, a lot faster, a lot more consistent in an awesome way. So all of that brings a lot of awesomeness to software development. By the way, forgot to mention, at some point in time, the code is done, you're shipping into production, you need to operate it and all of those things. So AAVA Plus helps you in that entire outer loop of software development.
It's very interesting. And some of the products you mentioned, I know that they have maybe 2 to 3 different types of agents that they provide. How does AAVA Plus differ in that regard?
So they have 2 or 3 different very, I would say, high-level, very autonomous, very intelligent agents. And I think they do a very reasonable job of helping you with the inner loop development.
Right.
Outer loop is a lot more comprehensive than just the inner loop. So AAVA Plus focuses on the outer loop development. And for the outer loop, you sometimes need to be very, very domain specific. So again, we are working with Digiterra to make sure that we are building the right set of agents on that outer loop level. We have built the right set of agents in that outer loop level, let's say for the healthcare industry or for the travel and hospitality industry, right? That outer loop ultimately has quite a bit of domain-specific kind of tasks and knowledges in it, and that's where the AAVA Plus actually focuses on.
I find it very fascinating in terms of how you educate an agent, and there's almost like ingredients to making a great agent. Maybe like 5 different ingredients that you can use for an agent to understand its role and its function.
That's right. So for an agent to perform its task autonomously and achieve the complex objective, first you need to actually tell it what that objective is. So you need to describe the task. You need to give it an example of what you think the output should be. You need to give it a backstory as to how the agent should reason about that particular task, right? So all of these goes into definition of a prompt that ultimately gets executed on an agent. Then the agent needs to get a lot of context about the environment that is executing it. So all the contextual knowledge that we give to every agent is critical. Like the data that I have in my rack setup, for example, becomes part of it. Let's say additional contextual either code or doc or other pieces of knowledge actually becomes part of it. Things like guardrails, as in, hey, what data we do not want to see actually come out as part of the response? what data we do not actually want it to go inside the LLM. And all of these, you actually need to optimize it for the model that performs the best. By model, I mean the foundational model. The foundational model that performs the best for that agent, given the environment that they're in. So there are quite a few customizations and tweaks that you need to do to make sure that the agent completes that complex task in the fastest, most reliable, and most high quality kind of way. And AAVA Plus literally makes it like super easy for us to be able to configure and custom tailor those agents for the environment that we go to and we are trying to do our job at.
That's a very interesting point about the foundation models here, and maybe there's a distinction we should make here. So there's a customization that happens at the agent level, but you can also customize the agents to use separate models as well.
That is correct. That is correct. Yes. So I'm just throwing this one as an example. We were putting together a project, and we were starting with the idea from the beginning. My example of red screen with a blue button on it. And we actually saw that for that particular deployment, Sonnet 3.7 model actually performed very well. And it was actually giving the results that was exceptional for this client. So we were able to configure those agents that actually run the product management side to actually use Sonnet 3.7, while we didn't have to change the rest of the agents that we had created on a GPT, I think it was GPT 4.0 model. So we were able to even customize or optimize, for that matter, the behavior of the agents based on the model that actually gives them the best answer.
Got it. And when it comes to things like ROI, what should organizations be looking at? So how do they understand what the reward is for going down this approach?
Well, thinking about, again, software development, I always remember that triangle that they taught us from day one of software engineering, which was one edge was the scope, the other edge is the quality, and then the other edge is the effort that you actually put in it. So for me, an agent or an agentic flow will live to its promise if we can bring down that effort almost to a negligible way. We can actually bring it down real small without changing the scope and without compromising on that quality. So I think that is one measure of ROI, because all of that translates into more throughput for the engineering team to go do more things, right? You no longer have to pay the opportunity cost of the work that you wanted to do but you didn't do. So that increases your throughput. That's one. Number two, if you can quantify your quality angle, and if the agentic flow actually helps you have better quality code. Let's say you're measuring quality by the data that you get from, as an example, SonarQube, right? And you're getting higher quality data based on how SonarQube is actually measuring it. Well, that's also a benefit. That's also a return on the investment. So the nirvana would be, if the scope doesn't change, you increase the quality and you decrease the effort. All of that translates into building better software, quicker and faster, so that your team can do more and more of these over and over again.
That makes a lot of sense. And typically, as a Jethwa, we work with a lot of regulated industries. So the financial services sector, the banking sector, the energy trading, commodity sector.
Yes.
Some of these maybe utilities, government-backed.
That's right.
And there's always this kind of nervousness around production workloads, where we've got typically deterministic systems in the past, and now we're opening our doors to more probabilistic systems. So how do organizations build confidence in going down this direction of maybe more non-deterministic platforms?
I would say number one, definitely spend time to custom tailor and configure the agents within your agentic flow. I think you will find that spending time and teaching the agent your constraints, the output that you're expecting and all of that will actually achieve all the goals that I think a deterministic system will actually give you, right? Making sure that the correct unit tests are there, making sure that the correct coding standards are followed, making sure that the correct documentation is produced. In the regulated industry, sometimes some of the objectives behind those controls are implemented in different frameworks and classes that the organization has. So enforcing usage of those libraries and components in the correct way in the code, that will ultimately go a long way. So I think spending time custom tailoring those agents obviously will go a long way. And of course, the guardrails. The guardrails are there to make sure that you are guarding against things like hallucination, things like the data that you don't want this to come out. You actually want to filter it, and all of those things. So spending time on the guardrails and the agent customization will ultimately pay off and achieve all of those objectives.
I think it's worth zooming into guardrails now as well. So should that be an independent function of a red teaming platform, for example, or should it be something that sits alongside an existing platform? How best to implement guardrails, especially in the context that we've just described?
So here's where I'm going to be a little bit philosophical. And I would say that based on my experience in the financial services industry, it might make sense to have a centralized group that is chartered with the AI policies, the AI guidelines, what should be the AI strategy, and also what should be the AI guardrails. And I don't mean just a Word doc that describes these are things that shouldn't go in, these are the data that shouldn't come out, but literally own coding of those guardrails and where those guardrails are applicable, so that the independent teams in lines of businesses, they just go to this library of already blessed guardrails, and then they pull in whatever is applicable to their system. And then ultimately the AI center of excellence, or that AI governing body, can then look and make sure that all the correct guardrails are applied. This will actually help scale the implementation and rollout of the guardrails very well, in my opinion, in an enterprise, while you have central control and consistency around what those guardrails and stuff should be.
Got it. And can you tell us about maybe a use case that AAVA Plus has been used around a particular environment, any kind of modernization examples?
We are doing quite a few legacy modernization work using AAVA Plus, but the one that I would highlight is the work that we are doing for I would say a fairly good size financial services company, a bank in California. And this bank actually has grown quite a bit through a lot of acquisitions. And they ended up with a lot of legacy code. If I recall it correctly, it was close to 1 million lines of a legacy language called PL1, if I recall it correctly. Right? Now, it is extremely hard today for them to find engineers who actually know PL1 to go maintain that code. Right? So they approached us and they asked us to help them with that problem. And we are able to, utilizing AAVA and utilizing AI, first of all, document exactly what all of that PL1 code actually does, and then help modernizing it into their desired target environment, which is a lot of Java Spring Boot running on Azure and things like that. So that has been one of the most, I would say, one of the successful kind of areas that AAVA Plus is currently being used to modernize a very, very legacy system basically for a bank.
Very interesting. I think you mentioned that in terms of timescales, it's a lot faster to go around with AAVA Plus as opposed to doing it conventionally via manual effort.
That is correct. So I think we are, if I recall it correctly, we have been working with this bank for just about 7 to 8 months now. And we have already been able to actually convert quite a bit of that legacy code. Converting 1 million lines of PL1 code into modern code in about 7 to 8 months is a heavy task. And AI was really able to help our small team kind of achieve that. So it has really been our superpower in terms of being able to deliver.
And I've heard you say help and superpower. So, we should be clear that AI is assisting a team
Correct.
Who's on the ground. What topology of team makes sense when you're dealing with a modernization problem like that?
So, first of all, I think, yes, AI is actually being used in an assistant way, but we have also deployed quite a bit of autonomous agentic workflows in that environment as well. So I don't want to discount the roles of agents and agentic flows in that approach. But in terms of the team composition, ultimately, you always need a technical project manager who actually knows all the moving parts, knows what needs to be done, and then basically keeps a pulse check on all the efforts. You definitely do need an architect, a senior technical person, to then reason about how best to utilize AI, whether in an assistant way or in an agentic way. I'll give you one example. All the foundational models, they have a limited context window. With every new release, we will get higher context windows, but there is a limit on the context window. When you're talking about 1 million lines of a legacy application, sometimes you go above that context window. All right. So what is the best way to actually chunk the data that is going into this model in a way that you are playing well with the context window, right? This is just one very concrete example when you actually do need someone who can reason about it, who can architect about it, right? And of course, then you need a lot of engineers who can then, at the right time, actually jump into the agentic flows, the human in the loop, this is a developer in the loop, and then be able to then reason about, hey, did the AI do the job completely? Do I need to adjust anything? And things like that. So that is the composition of the team for code legacy modernization. You can transpose that one to data legacy modernization. You need data engineers, you need architects, you need ETL engineers. The same thing applies to operations legacy optimization and things like that. So you just transpose that one into different kind of disciplines.
Gotcha. And AAVA Plus hosts a whole bunch of different studios as well. Can you talk a little bit about the differing studios and what applications they have across the SDLC?
Absolutely. It would be tough for me to actually list all of our studios, but I just highlight a few of them. So we have a studio called Product Studio. And the goal behind Product Studio is to be a good guiding UI on top of all the agentic flows we have that helps a product manager go from an idea to a fully functioning roadmap. And when I say a guiding UI, that basically means that we are, through that UI, we are interjecting the human in the loop in the right spot. So if I kind of like can walk you through it, it first starts with my favorite example, red screen with a blue button on it. And then it will start to kind of understand and expand that problem just to make sure that the AI has helped us understand that problem right. Then it stops and allows the product team, the product management team, the designer team to actually get together and then reason about where the AI may have fallen short and things like that, right? Then to the next step, I highlight our Experience Studio. In our Experience Studio, you can easily take a picture of a UI that you and your colleagues were brainstorming about it on the whiteboard. Take a picture of it, send it to our Experience Studio, and the Experience Studio not only transforms that picture into a real functioning UI that you can then now move things around, it also creates the code behind it and then allows you to go back and forth between the code and the UI and the UI and the code. You can actually interact with that UI design now through a natural language way, saying the blue button looks ugly, please make it green, and things, and it will actually take care of that for you. We have a quality engineering studio that you can use to go from a user story to a set of test scenarios and test cases, and go from test cases to automation scripts. Allows you to actually go through this journey. We have a data modernization studio. We have a studio for what we call it AI-powered operations, AIPO, that allows you to apply AI to the end-to-end IT software management kind of industry aspects. So all of these studios ultimately are guiding UIs on top of the agentic flows that we have. It makes it easy for us to go interact with those agentic flows, but those agentic flows, at the end of the day, they are just APIs that you call. So we don't have to use the studios. We can integrate our agentic flows inside of current existing experiences for our clients as well. So I just named a few of our studios. I missed a good chunk of them, but good.
There are quite a few. And you also mentioned that your team looks after, one, the platform, and two, AI services as well. So
That's right.
Can you dig into the AI services portion? What does that entail?
So if I think about AAVA Plus platform as bringing the power of AI to software development world, I think about our AI services work as bringing the power of AI to the business world. And by business, I mean day-to-day things that we do, but they do not have anything to do with software engineering. I'll give you a few examples on that one. Knowledge management is I think it's a straightforward use case, but it's not an easy use case for enterprises to tackle. And by knowledge management, I mean put your data, your docs, links to your databases, all of those in a system that then someone can, in a chat GPT style, be able to ask questions from that system, right? It's a very straightforward use case, but it is not very easy to implement. One of our offerings is to be able to enable our enterprise clients deploy these knowledge managements at scale. Part of that is what we call it enterprise RAG. And setting up a RAG obviously is, you can go to GitHub and then find code and then copy paste it. But scaling it at the enterprise level, scaling the data ingestion pipelines, knowing exactly which embedding models to use, how many vector databases you have, and how do you scale against those. All of that is the know-how that we bring to the table. So that's, for example, one. The other offering that we have is getting traditional machine learning and AI setups, and then modernizing them for the world of generative AI and agentic flow. So modernization of the current, let's just call it legacy/traditional AI systems is another one. End-to-end model ops and running the model ops pipeline is another offering that we have. Applying AI to customer care in the correct and scalable way. That's another offering that we have. So those are the areas that we are actually helping our businesses actually scale. Last but not least, we are actually able to work with our clients to look at their existing business processes and agentifying them. Remember our work on the software engineering side and the AAVA platform? We have agentified practically the entire software development process. So we know how to get processes and truly agentifying them. We have done it for software engineering. We can do it for other areas like finance, like marketing, like accounting, and all of those things. So that's another one of our major offerings on the AI services side. So engineering to the power of AI, business processes to the power of AI.
Very clear. And your background is in ML ops as well. How has ML ops changed now in terms of the new field of agentic AI?
I would say parts of it has changed, but the underlying concepts have not, right? So a few years ago when I was doing ML ops, and let's say we had model version Neo that was just developed, and we had the model version production that was actually running. Well, when you actually have these two models, you don't just get the new model and slap it over the old model, right? Bunch of stuff are changing. You first need to make sure that the new model performs not better, if not better, almost as good as the old model. But now you have new features in the new model. You have new data pipelines that you need to feed into it and all of those, right? So that concept still exists in the world of Gen AI. You have a prompt that is actually running fairly well in production right now. Now you have a new prompt. All right, how do you actually decide to put new prompt and overwrite the old prompt? You need to have the same principled approach behind it. Now the new prompt may actually require new data in the RAG, new context to actually be added. Maybe requires changes in the guardrails. How do you figure out that the new system outperforms the existing system, and how do you go from existing to the new? All of those concepts remain the same. You're just utilizing concepts like prompts and RAGs instead of data pipelines in the past. And of course, you can agentify the whole process with the right points for the human in the loop to actually jump in there. Concepts are the same. Tools are a little bit different. It's just like driving. You can drive with the stick shift. Now you have an automatic transmission. You still need to stop at the stop sign.
Good metaphor. And so one of the questions we hear from clients is, okay, a platform like AAVA Plus sits on top of models, so you're using foundational models that are out there. How can you regression test when you change from one version of a model to another model? How can you enforce the fact that nothing's really changed, there's no adverse effects?
So for example, on the software engineering side, when we are trying to go from model old to actually model new, or I would say prompt old to prompt new, or things like that, right? We actually use AI to actually generate the tests already, and then we just run the tests against the newly kind of generated system, and we would like to see whether the quality actually goes down or not. If it goes down, it's bad. If it goes up in the right direction and with the right magnitude, it is good. But that's on the software engineering side. For a non-software engineering area, there are obviously quite a few kind of patterns that one can use, and quite a few, I would say, metrics that one can use. One very common pattern is LLM as a judge. So you use one LLM to generate something, and then you use other LLM or LLMs to actually judge whether the what was actually generated is right or not. That is a very common and very useful pattern. And of course, there are actually very nice products out there in the market that can help you with quality assurance and quality management of these prompts and stuff as well. What comes to mind is products like Galileo.ai or Vellum or Petronas and things like that. So there are quite a few products also out there that they have their own unique approach.
Very interesting. And we're seeing with clients that they've all got their own digital employees as well. So how does AI fit in with digital employees?
Well, I would say that, or at least something that I've observed, is that some of those implementation of the digital employees is ultimately based on the AI, right? So these are all of those, let's say, agents and agentic flows that have been created to complete a complex task and achieve some complex objectives. That's ultimately what an employee does. So I just see it as an incarnation, and I would say an instantiation of an agent and an agentic flows inside the enterprise. What is actually interesting, though, is to see how the culture and the working pattern and the operating model of the enterprise changes when, instead of having 100% human employees, you have human employees and AI-based digital employees. So that's a very interesting area, and I kind of observe that area with quite excitement to see what problems pop up, what challenges pop up, and how we can actually solve it.
It's interesting because you have the same challenges as humans as well. So they're given IDs, like employee IDs. They're given entitlements and permissioning to certain systems.
That's right.
So there is regulation around what they can work with.
That's right, and their work is actually tracked, right? So a digital employee, an AI-based employee, also has an ID, has entitlements. But the AI employee can then do, and their work is again tracked, governed, observed, just like a regular employee.
Interesting. And when it comes down to ownership, especially now where you have developers who are working with assistants, where does the ownership really hinge on? Is it the actual developer? Is it an AI company? Is it an AI product? So if you have an AI system that's generating code, who is ultimately responsible for the code that's being generated?
At the end of the day, there are humans who are employing AI. And these employees, and these humans ultimately are going to be responsible and accountable for what the AI generates. AI is there to actually make our work a lot simpler and easier, but we as humans are ultimately, I think, accountable for that.
In terms of the future of the industry, obviously we're seeing this broader shift to more autonomy, to more agency, whether we agree or not that agentic AI has agency or not, or true agency. Where do you think the industry is moving?
I actually see a lot more higher level, more autonomous, I would say more comprehensive agents actually being created. These agents can really reason about the task that they are there to achieve and the environment in which they are actually operating. I think we will see a lot of advancements in there. I would argue that for software engineering, we are almost already there. Those agents can really complete some very, very complex tasks. And it just happened for software engineering because, software engineers are very, very receptive to actually using AI in their day-to-day work. Now I think the non-software engineers are also observing the benefits of agents and agentic AI in their world. So I definitely foresee us actually seeing a lot more spend and a lot more innovation and a lot more enhancements in building higher level, more autonomous agents for non-software engineering world. Things like marketing, things like finance, things like accounting, kind of that area. So I really foresee us moving in that direction.
Thank you very much, Daryush. And where would you guide people if they wanted to find out more?
Ascendion.com.
Great.